What's up, guys? Welcome back to Feast or Famine with the Youngs.
We're the Youngs.
Hi, we have a special guest today.
That's not a
Hello.
That's me.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Marianne with STL Bride Magazine.
Oh my gosh, an icon.
Oh God. You are way too kind, way too early. This is awesome.
An icon. One of our community's best from St. Louis Bride. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, this is so fun. I can't wait.
Yeah.
So give us a quick rundown of who you are,
Okay.
your background, and then how long
yeah,
you've been
you have-
with, because you've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, our
Yeah.
last meeting, I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
you've done that and that and that and that?
I'm kind of the unicorn. It's so
are.
funny. I mean, I don't know if I'd say, yeah, maybe I would say unicorn. I'm kind of the unicorn of the industry. I've been around for 20 plus years. I've worked on the front side of things, so hotels, event spaces. I've worked as a chef. I actually went to culinary school when I was 32 years old, so
That's
kind of
so
went that
cool.
track, it's been an interesting kind of journey for my background and leading me where I am now, because I can speak to a lot of different points in the industry.
Yeah.
So I worked for, like I said, hotels. I worked on the event space side, and then kind of transitioned over the last year and a half to the editor of St. Louis Bride Magazine, which really kind of, as you look at it now, is kind of that natural progression of this career. So
Yeah.
here I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so you're an editor,
I am the editor. Yep,
right?
I am.
The editor.
The
The
editor.
editor,
The
the editor. We're a small team. It's great. You think you see this magazine and it's like, whoa, but we're a small but mighty team. It's awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool. So when photographers and planners and everything are submitting, you're the eyeballs that see them, right?
I am the eyeball, so I'm really the first line of defense.
Yeah.
As far as that goes, I'm kind of that first step in the process.
Yeah.
I gather all of the content along with our publisher, Ethan Woods, who is an amazing human in the field. He's been with the magazine 27 years, I think.
How long has the magazine
Wow,
been?
St. Louis Bride has been around. It's really interesting because I'm hearing that there was really some older St. Louis Bride, but it's been, I want to say 27 years.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that there was a really huge 25th anniversary edition
I remember
with all kinds of different brides and grooms from over the years. So I'm the one that really kind of gathers all the content along with the team. We kind of talk about what we want to talk about for this next issue. And then I assign writers, I put out the call for content, and real weddings, real moments that we cover.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I love that. Today we are just talking about, every photographer, I feel like wants or dreams to get published. At least I have. So we're talking about how to get published, what you look for when you're taking submissions, and kind of how to prepare for it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's such a story to tell with that, because honestly, it's not just as simple as, hey, here's this really cool gallery. Would you take a look at it?
Yeah.
I look at hundreds. I am in the middle right now. We're in the middle of editing right now. The new issue comes out in July. So I'm in that deep, kind of knee deep in what I call the editing cave.
Yeah.
I've gotten all of the submissions, and I now literally am looking at hundreds of photographs.
Yeah.
To kind of decide, along with our creative team, what that looks like for the magazine.
Yeah. So I feel like one of the biggest questions, and I have so many questions for you to help our listeners figure out what they can do to get their work published.
Right.
But from an editor's perspective, because you are looking at so much work, what are just a few things that stand out to you that you're like, yes, this is the one that I want in my magazine?
I can give you a huge word. Details.
Like flat lays, florals, design.
Details, everything.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing for me to be able to see. A lot of couples reach out as well. So a lot of couples will send their photos. They'll work with their photographer, and I'll get kind of this abbreviated gallery, right? I'll get, here's
Basically
our highlight.
their favorites.
Right.
Most of the time, it's their favorites.
I love that you said that, because they are beautiful photos. However, it's not necessarily, I don't need to see 10 pictures of the bride and groom. I don't need to see 10 pictures of the wedding party. What I can say and what I can talk most about is really think about it from the perspective of what the purpose really is for this. Yes, we want to showcase a gorgeous wedding. We want to show all the details, but we also want to inspire that next group.
Yes.
We want to inspire that next group of couples that are planning their wedding. And we want to give them those inspirational little tips. And so I kind of look for, I'll be honest with you, I look for the unique.
Yeah.
I look for a lot of unique things. I want food shots, one of our biggest. And this is something that Ethan and I have talked about for the last year, is when you think about the wedding, right? And you think about the investment. And of course, photography, videography to me is right there at like, hey, that's top of the list, because that's the thing that's going to be there forever.
Right.
But then you think about those investments that come next. And you think about the time, the energy, the money, the dollars that are spent in that wedding reception, right? And the food.
The food is like high
Right.
up
The
there.
food is huge because I mean, we've been to hundreds of weddings.
Yeah.
But if you haven't been to hundreds of weddings, I feel like one of the biggest things you will remember is if the food was bad or if the food was good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I always advise and what I've talked about forever and ever, and of course, being on the culinary side of things early on, it's near and dear to my heart, right? However, the food shots are just part of the story of your wedding.
I love that. I love that. And from a photographer, I'll be honest, I don't always get photos of the food.
It's hard.
And sometimes I do. Like there is one
Like
wedding.
past hors d'oeuvres we'll get, obviously.
Sure.
Yeah, and there was one wedding that we shot where we sat down at our vendor table, like in the back, not in the reception. And we were served a salad, which by the way, we don't always get a salad, but when we do, I love it. Yes, this was at the Ritz.
Caterers take note.
This was the best salad
This was the
I've ever
best
had at a
salad
wedding.
I've ever had at a wedding. And the presentation, the plating was incredible. I had to get my camera and take a photo of the salad because I was like, this is a masterpiece. Like, this is beautiful.
Right.
And like you said, aside from like photo, video, planning, the culinary side and the caterer is one of the highest price items for your wedding day.
It is. And think about the inspiration that those photos can provide to couples.
Yeah.
Because working, again, I'm going to kind of transition here, working on the event side of things and working with couples for as long as I did, one of their favorite parts of planning is the tasting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's
Free
choosing
food.
the food, choosing the menu, choosing all of those things. And so I always want to try and include really unique food shots, whether it be a food station, whether it be plated, whether it be desserts. I mean, there's so many that are going through my head right now of the weddings that I'm looking at right now for the new issue of really fun, unique things that, again, I always go back to the story, right? What's the story of your wedding?
We had a wedding where they roasted a whole pig. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was my wedding.
Yeah.
I did that.
That is like really cool, I think. And obviously
That was a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was several years ago. And I feel like obviously like there's a whole pig like on a stick. You're going to get a photo of it.
It's
like
not on a stick.
Well, of course.
It's not on a stick.
It's so funny because that was what I did for my wedding. At the time I was working in the culinary industry.
It tells a story.
Absolutely. And I think that those things really help to create the experience as well of what are you providing your guests. So I always feel like that's a really, really important point that I look for.
That's good.
Is I really like when I can see the whole, I again, go back to send me the whole gallery. A lot of photographers, a lot of couples, a lot of vendors think, oh my gosh, that's just so much to send you. No, send me a link, send me how to get into it.
That's really good, because I've seen some submissions where it's like, choose the best 10 to 15. And I'm like, as the photographer, I'm like, I can't do that.
Right. Well, and it's subjective,
hard.
don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think that, again, the three of us that are sitting here right now, don't you think that that's a very subjective thing anyway? My favorites and my style of photography may be totally different than what your style is, what the couple's style is, what the florist's style is. And so for me, when I can see the whole gallery, I can roll through that gallery and I can look at every moment of the wedding and I can actually tell the story, because it's still the goal for us to be able to tell the story. And that's kind of one of my next little tips is, when you're submitting, think about what that story looks like. So even following up with the editorial, I always ask questions of the couple. I want to know, like, what was your favorite moment? What would you recommend? What would you recommend doing? What are those most important things that you would recommend a couple planning their wedding do? And then kind of the random, like, what other like little random fact would you tell me about your planning? And it helps to create the story of what this wedding is. And again, story equals inspiration to me.
So when a photographer is going into a wedding day, maybe they already know that the design for the wedding is going to be epic. They already know that they want to get it published. What approach should they take when they're photographing the wedding? Even as far as like a technical side, are you looking for vertical photos, horizontal, micro detail?
Both.
All of it?
Any, honestly, I'll be very broad on this one because it's really any and all.
Okay.
Any and all, of course, high res is going to be the biggest thing, right? I mean, that goes to our art director. And a lot of times she'll come back with, oh my gosh, we have the most gorgeous photo, but we need
it's a website photo.
Right. And so I always want to make sure that whoever's submitting is sending me the high res, the ability, and you guys just asked me that just a couple minutes ago, because we were talking about a couple weddings that we're looking at, and I just need the high res. I just need the high res galleries. And I know, you have to balance it too, because of course it's someone's wedding day, right? I mean, we are there to celebrate this couple. We are doing everything for this couple. So, but the detail shots, even, as they translate, maybe they won't make it into the album per se, but this couple will have, again, this story of how everything transpired through those detail shots too.
Well, not even just the couple having it. Like you mentioned earlier, you want to inspire other couples to use it. So it's one of those things you want to not only have them like the wedding that you feature, you want them to flag the page and put it in their drawer for when they plan their own.
And that's what I love about publishing. I mean, I'll just throw that out there right now. This is what I love about the publishing aspect, and the fact that STL Bride really is one of the few, even on the national platform, we're one of the few magazines that still publish an actual magazine
and
that you can pick up twice a year. So we're on the newsstands. We have a fall, winter, and then we have a spring, summer that we work on. July and January is our publication. So I think that when you think about women and couples planning a wedding, they look so much online, but there's still that element to me of having a stack of magazines and be able to, like you said,
I did that for our wedding.
Absolutely.
I would sit by the pool and look at a bridal magazine and
tear and rip and dog, and just do all of those things. So for us, we come at a point of, yes, this was a gorgeous, beautiful wedding, but we want to inspire. I mean, that's our goal, is to really inspire couples to take a little nugget of a wedding, and maybe it's a signature cocktail.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a food, maybe it's a bride and groom's dessert, or it's a couple's chuppah. I mean, there's a story that I'm working on. There's a couple that just submitted, and their story is just the coolest thing, because they gave me all of this detail in their responses.
Yeah.
They literally
That's the
built
best.
their, I love that. They built their chuppah together.
Oh.
And
so
they told the story. I'm not going to give too much away, but it's so great. They told the story of how they did this, like how they built it, how they engineered it, the things that happened with their family to create this chuppah. And you think about whether it's a chuppah, whether it's a arbor, an arbor, whatever it is, these are the things that are like, this is where you get married, right?
That's
and
so
so
special.
it's just such a cool story. And again, if it inspires another couple to do that, if it inspires anyone, I think that that's just the coolest part of it.
Yeah,
Oh, for
that's
sure.
really cool.
I mean, we're storytellers.
We are storytellers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what we want. We want to tell a story so that you can tell a story.
Absolutely. And then we can help other couples move forward with because planning is, it's a lot.
Yeah.
We all know that.
Yeah. So, in a world of, the internet is big, social media, trends, things like that, from an editorial standpoint and a magazine standpoint, how do you feel about like trends and publishing them?
Like those TikTok trends, you mean? Like
photo trends, like shutter drag, and
the not off-axis photos and self-focus photos.
I love, for me, I'm a creative, of course.
Yeah.
So I love, and I think this is what draws me, obviously, to this industry is I love the creative side of it. And so, little bit of a fun fact, I took photography class back in the day. I used to take photography class. I had a darkroom in my basement,
awesome.
which is so hilarious, right?
For those that don't know what a darkroom is.
Hey, I did darkroom when I was in high school too.
Yeah, I think they still have that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's film photography.
Yeah.
It's when you expose, you have to be in a completely dark room, otherwise you can ruin the
develop your own
film, and you
photos.
develop the film.
Yeah.
Well,
so cool.
I think on the photography side, I just feel like more is more, so to speak, right? Because again, like I said, when we first sat down, that's what you have.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's one of the biggest kind of like, regrets, or, I didn't do this with my photographer. I didn't hire. I've heard horror stories of like, Uncle so-and-so taking photos, and I'm like, you know what? When you're working on your budget for your wedding, photography needs to be top of list for me. It really a lot of, because that's what you have left.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. Same thing with videography
Don't
too.
we know it?
Yeah.
Right. I know. Absolutely. Right. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir with the two of you, but I just feel like any of that is just so important.
Yeah.
And for me, I kind of fall a little bit to the one side of creativity. So I love a lot of the unique photo trends, things that we're seeing. And when we talk about trends per se, you see all these lists that come out every year, and you see, what's the top 5 things that you should do for your wedding? I feel like we're here to give guidelines of that. We're here to kind of say, oh, wow, this would be really cool, ... Like right now, I absolutely love kind of off-color wedding gowns, not necessarily major color, but I love the blush. I love the blues. I love the florals. I love all of the things that are happening right now.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's up to the individual to then take it and run with it and make it their own.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times we live and die by the you should.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you should. Absolutely. Go for it.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
speaking about trends, we talk about this a lot. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast much, but in general, being in the Midwest, St. Louis is kind of always
the last to get the trends.
to get the trends. So as an editor for a local magazine, how do you prioritize ushering in those trends from the coast that to get them here faster?
Wow, that's a good question.
That is a good question.
It's a great question, actually. And I think really it's all about what we want to say in our editorial, too. And again, I think for us, we're about giving permission to do those things. Like when you go to an expert, and again, think about the couples that you work with too, and they come to you with questions of photography or, hey, what do you think about this? Or can you shoot film? Or I've heard this or that. They're just looking to us as the experts. Mm-hmm. They're looking to us to be able to say, this is great. This is okay. If you want to, I remember back in the day, pets, right? Let's talk about pets for a minute, right? I do too. I think they're adorable. But again, I remember the first time that I actually was way back in the day. I think I was at the Westin at the time, and I had a bride that wanted her dog to be there. And it was a thing.
Oh,
it was a total thing. Like, what do we do? Can it be there?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of questions around it, but I think that it's our job. It's kind of our job to let our couples know that it's really okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that. I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was Troy Williams, but he talked about design with us one time, and he said, I have my couples sometimes just tell me, what in your wildest dream could you imagine being at your wedding? Mm-hmm. And even if it's something that I know that is probably not applicable,
like an elephant,
I'm going to figure out some way to bring in that element in some way, shape, or form to make sure that you can get everything that you've dreamed of.
Speaking of elephants,
I've done it.
You might have this now too. I have a bucket list item that I want to do an Indian wedding where the groom comes in on an elephant.
And I've seen that.
Yeah.
You've done
I've
that?
seen it overseas, but I want to.
No, it's been done here in St. Louis. It has.
Really?
Yeah,
How
it's
do they
been done
do
in
that?
St. Louis. I mean, there's a certain source that, obviously you have to source. A lot of times, like right now I'm looking through weddings, there's a lot of horses, the brought,
Oh, yeah.
for the Indian
Yeah.
weddings.
For sure.
But yeah, there was a wedding, I want to say it was quite a few years ago, but the groom came in on an elephant.
I think it'll be
That's
so cool.
epic. Gosh, that is just epic.
On
That's
Raja,
awesome.
we'll connect with the zoo and have Raja.
Oh my gosh.
That'll be on the cover of St. Louis Bride.
That's a whole nother set of rules and regulations and
Oh my goodness.
all kinds of things. But it's kind of interesting that you say it that way, though.
Yeah.
That you say that. What's the wildest? What?
Yeah.
And it's not.
It's okay to do. It's your wedding.
It is. It is.
You have permission to do whatever you want to do.
And I love seeing all of the wedding submissions come in because I see that, and I've seen it more. I have to say, I've seen it more with this issue. I am seeing some really, really unique, different, creative weddings that are coming through where it really, when you think about it, this is kind of your start of your life as a couple.
Yeah.
And so how are you going to make that statement?
Yeah.
I'm all about statements.
Yes.
So it's like, how are you
Yes.
going to make those statements and what are you going to do? I think that too many times, you get caught up in the what should we do and not what could we do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
We had, even when it comes down to like a very simple thing, we had a couple and their parents, and the parents of the couple were like, well, traditionally we sit on the side of our child, but I want to see their faces. So are we allowed to sit on the opposite side? I'm like, you are allowed to do whatever you want to do.
I love it.
Yeah. And they did. And they sat on the opposite side and they were able to have a good, clear view of their child getting married. And,
I have a good side and I want to be on that side. Do it.
Sure.
It's your wedding.
Yeah, even just down to the simple things of, are we allowed to, you're allowed to do whatever you want to do for your wedding.
As long as it's on the right side of the law, right?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
This is
Of course,
true.
that's a but seriously, I think that empowering couples is what we want to do.
Exactly.
And we want to show those fun, unique.
Yeah.
So I go back to the details, because those are the things that inspire the couples.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That inspire the future couples that say, oh my gosh, wow, they built their own chuppah. Why don't I do that?
Yeah.
Or, we got married at our friend's our mini horse ranch.
Yeah.
Like they got married I did a wedding at a mini horse ranch.
That's so fun.
And one of the mini horses was the flower girl.
Oh my goodness.
So cute, adorable. But
yeah.
But again, it goes back to what is that statement with you as a couple? And so those are the things when I say I look for a story.
Yeah.
I look for details, and I look for unique.
Yeah.
I look for unique
Yeah.
a lot because I think that we are kind of moving into that post-COVID,
Yeah.
where I think the traditional weddings are great. They're wonderful. I mean, I had a very traditional wedding,
Yeah.
Italian mom, whole thing. We did that whole thing. But I think now it's a celebration, and how
Yeah.
do we celebrate?
Yeah. So I want to kind of transition into a topic I know you want to talk about, Alex.
Video, probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That always is how you end up doing
I know.
video.
Yeah. So obviously, as a physical paper publication, how are you starting to incorporate video, and how can videographers get their work published with a magazine?
Well,
what does
Harry
that
Potter spells.
what does that look like?
Harry Potter spells. And
There
then
you
you
go.
can make the video work. On the,
Yeah, there you go. I wish.
Oh my gosh.
Well, if we could do that,
Yeah.
That'd be game changer.
Wow.
would be in a totally new world.
Yeah, yeah.
I think video is so, again, because I keep going back to like the storytelling, right?
Yeah.
What is a story? And even with us in our editorial shoots, a lot of times we talked about, we have video backup. So
Yeah.
we want to tell that story.
Yeah.
And I feel like for us, we have a pretty significant website as well. So we have a website. And so the goal is to take and feature some of those weddings that have been in print, and maybe the weddings that didn't make it into the magazine, and do a real wedding of the week, feature
Yeah.
those on our website, and again, include that video. So I'm always open to send me the video.
Yeah.
Because we can use it on our socials, we can use it on our website, and I think,
You
again,
can put a QR code in the
Magazine.
publication,
We
and
talked
then you
about
can
that.
just actually link right to the video.
right to the
Yeah.
video. And I think it's great because I think that, again, we're a very much of an online society now.
Yeah.
And I think that people want to see that story
Yeah.
as well. One of the biggest regrets I have is that I didn't do video and I've been married almost
Same.
20 some odd years ago.
You
but
were talking about the story of the day. You've been touching on it the whole time, and I keep thinking about our wedding because we made
Right.
all the wrong choices. We hired not a high-end photographer, not
Yeah.
video at all.
Right.
The colors were horrible. But at the end of the day, that's our story, and it's a fun story to tell because we're wedding professionals with.
yeah. And she's like, well.
It's our story.
It is.
I
It
don't
is.
know.
But
So it would never have been published.
no. Oh my God.
And
No.
they have, you know what? Again, that's a really great point that you bring up because I want to throw that out there. A lot of couples, a lot of vendors. Oh, this was just a small little ... wedding. This was something. No, there's magic everywhere.
Oh, I
right?
love
I mean,
that.
there's magic
Yeah.
everywhere. And whether it's the two of you and you run off to City Hall and you do have a photographer that's documenting it and you
Mm-hmm.
have all these fun little details and you went to a great little restaurant afterwards, I want to tell that story.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Weddings aren't cookie cutter. And I think that's
true.
what we try to show in our pages.
Yeah.
Is that it's not, again, one wedding after the other that looks exactly the same.
Right.
It's all different. And
Yeah.
I think, again, those little moments are the moments that tell the story of weddings as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's different.
So with obviously, like you said, you look for the details and the photographs and things like that. When it comes to video and maybe sharing it like on your social media platforms, are you guys wanting like a full film, or are you wanting a shortened video of maybe just the details? Because like you
Absolutely.
said, that's what you're wanting to show.
Yeah. Really, almost the highlight reel.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about what you put out on socials and things. Really, the highlight reel.
Yeah.
Love the highlight reels. Love it because I feel like in video, those highlight reels kind of encompass the day pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And they do show
Yeah.
that. And I think that, again, for a couple planning, just to see that story makes them want more. They want to
Yeah,
see
exactly.
more of those. I can then take that and translate it into those details of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, they become really great blog posts as well, too.
Yeah.
So just talking about, I wrote a blog post a few months ago on why we love styled shoots, right? So why do we love styled shoots? Because again, that's almost like the best of the world right there. You're not planning for a vendor. You're not planning for someone.
Right.
This is your creativity, your thought process, and it really is what goes on. It's kind of like your personal photography projects that you do, or do you go out and shoot ...
Right.
Those, I think, are so important as well to the overall wedding story.
So when a photographer is planning a styled shoot, most of the time I would say that when a styled shoot's happening, the goal is for publication. Are you, again, you're looking for things to inspire different elements that are kind of just unique and organic. For St. Louis Bride, I guess, do you gravitate more towards publishing a styled shoot or a real wedding?
We do. It depends.
Okay.
Every issue is different. Now, this issue, I will tell you, this issue, we are publishing more real weddings this time. I don't know if we're going to publish any styled shoots or not this time, but it's never off the table. When we create content, what we do is kind of come up with our content plan. The goal is to actually have an issue that tells kind of a seamless story. So last issue, for example, we kind of focused on the decades of celebrations. So for us, the inspiration came from fashion.
Okay.
In that I'm a little obsessed with Christian Dior from the 1950s.
Yes.
It's no secret.
Yes.
Love the ball gowns, love everything about that era. And so Ethan and I were headed up to Chicago to the bridal market to see what was new, what was coming out in the bridal gown world, which is really an interesting experience in itself.
We want to get there one.
It's awesome. It's a really awesome experience to be able to see what the designers are really talking about.
Again, we're trying to bring these trends back to St. Louis.
St. Louis, right?
And the old, just not to cut you off, but like the old Christian Dior from the decades past, that's coming back.
It is coming back. Ball gowns are big.
Yes.
And so Ethan and I were talking on the train, and we were talking about my parents were married in 1956, and my mom had one of the most gorgeous gowns. It didn't have the big giant train, but we kind of started talking about Christian Dior, about the gowns, about Grace Kelly, that whole era. And that's kind of how this whole thing came together, the whole issue. And so then it's like, that's great, but then how do we tell, what other parts of the story is there to tell? And so that's how our issue comes together, is we really want to tell kind of a seamless story. So we talked about family traditions as well. So how do you incorporate, again, I don't see it too much anymore, wearing your mom's gown. But I do see there's a bride that's in this magazine coming up that had her mom's dress remade into a rehearsal dinner gown.
Oh, see, that's
so
cool.
She had a seamstress. So again, it's those kind of traditions and things that I think that you don't normally think about. That we translate to the pages. So that's kind of where the issue goes. So we try to really talk about experiences, about trends again, but trends make it your own. Make it your own.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
That. Yeah. What is your biggest piece of advice for videographers and photographers when they're getting ready to try to get something published? Is it reaching out beforehand or just kind of throwing it all out there?
Well, what's your
best approach?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we take submissions anytime. I mean, honestly, submissions anytime. And I will tell you a lot of times what I'll get, because we're out and about in the industry too, right? We're out, we're always going to open house. If something if someone's celebrating something in the industry, we're there. And a lot of times it'll just be hey, oh my gosh, I have a wedding.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll get from florists, from planners, from photographers.
So face to face.
Anything.
Okay.
I mean, I will get, my email is on the website, so it's no secret on how to reach me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll get even one of the cutest little weddings that I just worked on, that I just kind of finalized all the photos and things, was a makeup art. I mean, she was hair makeup.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, I just did the cutest, most unique wedding.
That's
and she
awesome.
sent me, she's like, here's a few pictures.
Yeah.
And I immediately wrote back and said, I want to see it.
Yeah.
So I just, emails are great. I'll see, I get so many, but it's great. I had a great wedding. And it could be from anybody. Anybody that's anybody that's participated. I had a calligrapher that did a really, really cool wedding. Very unique. That's all I'll say. It's in the mag this time.
Yeah.
Just unique and very different to the couple. And the photography is gorgeous as well. The details are great. It was not a huge wedding again.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that I can say. It's not the grand. It doesn't have to be these big, grand affairs.
Yeah.
While they're beautiful and they're great to look at, and certainly there's a place for those too. But again, I go back to the smaller, the little intimate, the little detail-rich weddings.
Yeah.
So I'm welcome. I mean, I welcome emails. I welcome texts. It's crazy. Face to face, I'll see people at events, or I'll see people out and about. Bridal salons will say, oh my gosh, this dress you have to see. You have to see this wedding.
Yeah.
And it's everywhere. I mean, inspiration's everywhere. I get ideas from everywhere. I get content from everywhere. Weddings come from every aspect of the industry, and I will look at every wedding that's put in front of me, really.
So this is something that's kind of been in the back of my mind. So I know it has to be in the back of other people's minds as well. What are your thoughts on Vogue and being published in Vogue? Like, obviously you work for St. Louis Bride.
Sure.
But you have you're very knowledgeable in this industry and specifically in editorial. Like, what are your overall thoughts about being published in Vogue, and what do you think that looks like?
Well, I mean, there's Vogue and Vogue Online. I think
because there's Vogue Online, and then there's just the bridal Vogue.
Bridal Vogue, right? Yeah. I think that again, anywhere that you can have your work published is great. Now, for us, and for any, I will kind of throw this out there as kind of the insider tip, is any magazine that publishes you, then you're done.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Like,
our guidelines are that we won't, if someone sends me a wedding that's been published in one of the other industry magazines, unfortunately, I'm not going to publish it. I may do something online. I may do something in socials, maybe, but that's one thing about the publishing industry's exclusivity. So,
and I was going to bring that up too.
So if, a wedding's been in a national publication, then 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to look at it.
Well, a lot of times you can't.
No.
Because that's what they require too.
And not every, but like a lot of different publications have different guidelines, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'll take that back. Pretty much across the board, you'll see really kind of the same editorial guidelines.
What are those typically?
Well, again, that we usually, our guideline is that we feature weddings usually from 12 to 18 months previous.
Okay.
And then again, the biggest giant exclamation mark is that it's not been published in any other platform. So whether it's editorial or whether it's online, it can't be published anywhere else for us to do that.
So what about just like regular posting?
Posting's great. I mean, if it appears on a photographer's blog, if it appears in their socials, anything like that, that's a very different story than that magazine, that editorial publication.
When I was just getting started with my business and just like,
I was going to say this,
just getting started and just trying to get my work submitted, like a new fresh photographer, just like eager to get her work submitted. I thought that I was like, I can't post any of this wedding until someone picks it up and is like, yes, it's going to go in our magazine.
Oh.
So that's false news.
That's false news. For the most part, it is. I mean, because you'll see, I mean, even in the St. Louis community. So St. Louis community has some great resources for vendors, even just photographers posting on their Facebook page, Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
I can't tell you over the last few weeks how many photos I've seen of, I'm like, oh, well, you know, that's one that was submitted.
Yeah.
We won't turn those down. I mean, that kind of thing is great.
Yeah.
If it's all your personal posting.
Yeah.
But when it goes to a national platform or even a regional platform or another platform per se, that's really that publishing platform, then
So your best recommendation would be when submitting, regardless of if you're submitting to St. Louis Bride or
national,
just
whatever,
Martha Stewart, or actually Martha is out, isn't she?
Martha's online.
Online only.
Yep.
Yeah, but her physical publications
they don't publish anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
But your best piece of advice would be to pick one.
You know, I mean, I don't tell anybody that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, again, you know, we love it because we're St. Louis. We want to feature all of the best local that we can. And that's the other thing about us is that we feature local St. Louis content, period. That's it. Your wedding has to have taken place in the St. Louis, and when I say St. Louis area, I'm talking, you think about the big kind of circle, big metropolitan area as well. Because I've honestly seen some most amazing, gorgeous destination weddings. However, there's been really no St. Louis representation in those said weddings other than the bride and groom and the family. We did do a really interesting story last issue, though, about a group of vendors that actually took to the road and they did a wedding. The bride was scheduled to be married here, and for pandemic reasons, for whatever, it just kept going on and on and on. So they decided to get married and do a destination wedding. But her big thing about that was that I want my vendors to go with me.
Yeah.
And so the
Take
florist,
us with you.
the florist, the photographer, the production company, the band, the DJ. The DJ went. And so it was, that's a great story.
That's all the St. Louis people.
Yeah.
That is a good story.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. So again, I don't say necessarily, I mean, if you've got that wedding and your dream is to be nationally published, absolutely submit it.
Yeah.
But know that the national platform works very different than our local platform. I'm working on weddings right now, and I've gotten those submissions. Those are all going in the issue, and they're done. When you submit to a national publication, you could wait 2 years for your wedding.
And that's kind of what I was getting to, is like the difference between a national like Vogue and then what you guys do with St. Louis Bride.
Well, and they're a lot more strict too, just by nature of being national. They have a lot more of a pool, so they're going to be more strict.
Well, they're definitely, there's standards, or I mean, I want to focus, you know, and we don't limit the number of weddings that we take. It just really depends on content.
Yeah.
I mean, there's sometimes where this new issue coming up will have 32 row weddings.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So, and then there's some issues that may have 25, 28. It really all depends on other content that goes with that. But on a national platform, I mean, they're pulling from, you know, and a lot of those, even Vogue, any of those are dealing with an international stage as well.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're looking at a wedding that, you know, again, is a very big, different kind of wedding than a lot of times. Although I have to say, there's a few that are in this issue of the magazine that are insane with the production, everything that's gone into it.
I love that. I mean, just like my personal opinion, of course I want to be featured in Vogue. Like, who doesn't?
Right.
But I also
want to be photographed for Vogue.
Yeah, literally. But I am also really passionate about just feeding our community.
We are too.
And just putting our work and our inspiration back into our community so we can all grow and we can all thrive from it. And I just, obviously that's what you guys are too. So for, the photographers listening and stuff like that, of course we want to be in Vogue. Let's not play around here, but also let's maybe prioritize our local community, because that's where we're thriving. And that's where I feel like we can learn from each other.
Our community, I have to say, again, speaking as someone who has been part of this community for this July, I want to say this is going to be 23 or 24 years.
That's amazing.
In my whole career path in this industry.
Yeah.
And I have to say, in this industry, in St. Louis, metro area, I'm not going to discount Illinois and parts around. I think we have one of the most incredible industries that I've seen. And I've worked in other cities. I've done weddings in other cities. I've worked for chefs in other cities. And I've seen just the collaborative group of humans that are here.
Yeah.
And I am always awed by that. So when I joined the team of St. Louis Bride Magazine and we did the whole launch, hey, Marianne's going to be the editor of St. Louis Bride at the launch party. One of the big things that I said is I've always in my life, whether it's been through food or whether it's been through events, I've always been a storyteller. And I get excited every day now that I get to tell the storytellers' stories.
I love that.
Because we all are. Yeah. And that's what we do for these couples, is we tell their stories.
Yeah.
And I go back to, we inspire, we help them to figure out what to do, where to go. And we've got this pool of insanely talented vendors, from photography to florals to planners. I mean, you name it, bands, DJs. I could name I could go down the list of every category in the industry and say that we have such talent. But what I love about it is the fact that we're also willing to work together for a greater good. Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder if that's because we are just landlocked. And, the East and the West Coast, that is, like we said a billion times already, that's where the trends start. But I feel like it's also mega competitive. And
because not only you have people there, you have people that want to go there to get married.
That want to go there.
Vendors want to go there to do the weddings there too.
Yeah. So it's mega competitive out there. And here we're obviously trying to branch out. We're trying to start trends here and push them out to the East and the West. But I can't help but wonder if that's also why just our community is just so friendly and so helpful, and we work together and things like that too, because we all want the same thing.
Well, I agree. I do. I agree with that. But I also feel like there is, and I'm now, y'all are going to laugh. This is funny. I'm kind of speaking from an OG perspective, right? Because it's there's a group, and I don't want to get into hey, back in the day, but it's true. So when I first started in this industry, and I was kind of in the middle of it, in the thick of it, when I was doing weddings, when I was working for the hotels, and I met so many florists, photographers, kind of again, go back to the OGs.
Yeah.
I think that from where I stand, we also had a group of kind of those OG vendors that have always been willing to take the newbies under our wing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so important to know from an industry standpoint.
Right.
Is that I've not worked with a more welcoming group.
Yeah.
And as I moved through my career, never hesitated to really work with anybody that reached out and said, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about getting started. I'm thinking about doing ... and making those introductions. So I think that we as a whole in our industry have created a community of collaboration. I mean, you look at the different aspects of the industry. You look at the photographers that get together, that you all you talk, you kind of trade information, and again, it's not this gatekeep, right?
Exactly.
And you look at the planners, the collaborative and the collective. You look at what Off-White is doing too, and they have a whole collective of an industry, and it's a place for us all to get together and kind of decompress, to change, exchange ideas, to get inspiration from each other, because I think we all as a whole make each other better.
Exactly.
And that's what I see in not my magazine. That's what I see in the magazine.
Yeah.
Is I see that collective voice coming together.
Yeah.
And I see those things. And I think that it's just so important that we tell those, again, I get to be the person that tells those stories of those vendors that packed up a truck, that packed up and went to Georgia to produce this wedding for this bride.
Yeah.
So I think that those stories are just so important and such inspiration for couples that are planning their wedding, that they need to hear.
Yeah.
Is that there's a value of community here.
Exactly.
True.
I love that. I love that.
I mean, it's I get a little kind of like, whoa, with that one, because well, I've seen it for so long.
Right.
I've seen it all these years, and I've seen the new planners that want to make a mark for themselves. And I love that.
Yeah.
I want to see that, because every time you have a new person entering this industry is the opportunity to learn and grow from them.
Yes.
I can teach them, and we can mentor, we can teach, we can help, but what we can learn from a fresh set of eyes, I think is invaluable too.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I 100% agree. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So, last question.
Okay.
What is your just number one, just biggest piece of advice for the artists out there wanting to get published?
Reach out.
Reach out.
And I think that that's it.
Yeah.
I think that I could say really with emphasis, reach out.
Yeah.
Again, we've kind of talked about that. Is there's no wedding too big.
Yeah.
There's no wedding too small.
I love that.
Right? Because I feel like reach out.
I feel like some photographers get pigeonholed. These details aren't fantastic, but that's not necessarily the point.
Or even the venue, because you mentioned previous to this to us before that if you get 10 submissions from one venue,
right,
you're not going to put all those in there, but you want to use all of St. Louis venues.
So a unique location maybe.
Absolutely. Unique locations, off the beaten path type of thing. Again, unique details. And like I said, I have seen weddings that have come in that have been literally the couple and maybe 2 attendants, the family, and their story is very different than the whole, 5 hours of, the wedding, then the reception, and just that traditional. I love the non-traditional too.
Yeah.
So again, I feel like for anybody that's, this wedding that I did, if you're saying to yourself, this wedding was so cool.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
There we go.
Seriously, this wedding was so cool. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. You know what? Send it.
Yeah. I think, we have talked about obviously the details of the wedding, detail heavy is what you look for. But from an artist perspective, we had a wedding during COVID that was in a front yard. And when I'm photographing it, it was in the front yard because of COVID.
Right.
It was in your magazine.
Yeah.
And
I forgot that was in there.
It was in there. And from an artist perspective, I remember that day photographing the bride walking down her sidewalk. And I'm like, there are all these cars in the background, and it was killing me. And I'm like,
and a sprinkler going off across
the street. And
But
I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to get this published, but I'm like, these are the things that are gonna kill the publication, blah, blah, blah. But it got featured because of those things.
That's the story.
Because that's all part of being in a front yard. You have the neighbor watering their grass. You have cars parked in the street and in the driveway.
So I wanted to say, let's not get confused with the details as far as the beautiful flat lay and the florals. Yes, we want that. We love that.
Absolutely.
Details of the story.
But the details of the story, I think, is kind of what you're also hitting on.
It is. It's truly. It really is. The story is what's important to me.
Yeah.
Whether it be, again, we can go back to whether it be for the real moments.
Yeah.
Whether it be you're pitching me something for editorial.
Yep.
I get emails all the time of, hey, it would be so cool to do a story about ...
Yeah.
And I love that because, again, not only do we feature, we're not just a magazine of real weddings, we do an editorial piece as well. We do a fashion piece as well.
Yeah.
And then we also do some kind of anchoring stories that go along with that.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned with the last issue, we talked about how to create classic cocktail. It was all about like the beverages for your bar. And
I love that.
when you're thinking about timelessness and the decades and what those cocktails are, we talked about how to create a really unique cocktail experience for your guests that's both alcohol and NA, which is a huge thing right now too.
Right.
And so again, I'm always looking for, I just say reach out. I mean, that's the thing, is reach out.
Yeah.
My ears are always open. I'm always looking for kind of that, what's the next story that we want to tell?
Yeah.
And I think that that's what makes a great magazine and really gives that inspiration. Photography trends.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk. I mean, we could do a whole thing on photography trends,
could.
right? Couldn't we?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we really could. And
Yeah.
but again, when you think about it, when you are a couple that are planning a wedding, you have no idea where to start.
Right.
Like, where do we start? Where do we go? How do we do it? What do we want things to look like?
You go to Target to pick up something and you're like, let me grab a magazine real quick.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And how do we start to put this all together?
Yeah.
And like, I don't even know what to look for in a photographer. I don't know what to look for in a florist. I don't know what to look for in whatever it is. And so these real weddings actually give our readers a sense of what to look for.
Exactly.
Who to look for.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So you say reach out.
Reach out.
How do they reach out to you?
Yeah.
On our website, there is a tab on the side it'll tell you all about real moments and editorial submissions.
Okay.
Anything new, fun, interesting going on, we want to know about it. Any kind of story ideas.
Okay.
All of that good stuff. Just reach. I mean, we're a small. Yeah, we are. We're a small team,
Yeah.
and you'll usually email me and I'll respond back.
Sounds good.
And
And
that'll
then
be in the not the comments.
the description.
Yeah.
Yep. And then
like-
what's your socials for St. Louis Bride?
Okay, in our profile. So, St. Louis Bride Magazine is on Instagram. We have Instagram, Facebook. You can just look up St. Louis Bride Magazine. And then bridestl.com is our website.
Okay.
And as I said, there's a little sidebar that says submission and editorial. And just click on that. It's got my email on there.
Perfect.
And just, again, reach out.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, reach out.
Reach out. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you.
and
This was
chatting
a
with
blast.
us.
Great conversation.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's all that we have for you today. Super good podcast. And that, I already said it. That's it.
That's it.
Okay. All right. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.